Well, good afternoon, everybody. I will call to order the November 12th, 2024 YCOM Executive Board Meeting. It is 3:05 p.m. And hopefully if you are joining online, you're able to hear us okay. We do have a somewhat shorter agenda for today. But before we launch into anything new, is there any old business that anybody has that we need to address? Seeing none, we'll go to new business. The first item is the appointment of the small city representative to fill the vacancy created by Rochelle Roden's departure from the executive board and the city of Dayton. There is a 190 agreement attached to everyone's packet. And on page 3 of the agreement, under the section 5, the city representative, it defines how the city representative is identified or selected. So it's a choice by the city parties to the agreement. After our last discussion, I reached out to the cities that are party to the agreement, with the exception of McMinnville, as stated, to the mayors and to the city managers. And they held a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and the cities selected Brandon Dross to be their representative to the YCOM Executive Board. So Brandon is here with us today. And welcome to the Executive Board, Brandon. Thank you for joining. Moving forward, Brandon is now part of the Executive Board as the city representative, and appreciate your willingness to come and serve and be a part. So
thank you, Chef. Appreciate it. Love to.
Next item, we'll turn it over to the director for her report.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Before I forget, Brandon, I'd like to connect with you in the next couple of weeks and have you come in and tour the center and visit with me. So any questions that you might have off the top of your head, or you want to collect or write some down, I would love to spend an hour or two with you. All right. Thank you. The news on the financial audit, the auditors were on site the second week of October, and I have good news where the audit is concerned. They do expect a quick turnaround this year, and I confirmed today that they're estimating it will be back the first part of December. So that's very helpful to us. And I just wanted to acknowledge and thank Emily for providing all the board materials that she does and all the documents on YCOM's behalf, as well as answering questions throughout the weekend, the whole audit season. And also to Mike Barnhart and Tara Williams. They're just incredibly helpful. And every time that I have a conversation with them, I learned something, and they were very, very helpful throughout the process and the on-site. So I just really appreciate that. I want to make sure I acknowledge those. An update on the Safer Watch, the school notification system that I briefed about last time we met. There has been a lot of collaborative process and is in progress between public safety entities that we dispatch for, as well as school districts. And in fact, even they're not installing a Safer Watch system in Newburgh, but that has kind of brought up some preemptive conversations through our Newburgh Police Department, as well as the Newburgh schools. So I'm really happy with how those conversations are going and the collaboration that's taking place. There is a tentative draft of kind of a model that Deb Brock with McMinnville Schools, MacPD and McMinnville Fire have created for how they intend to use and collaborate on the system. Captain Simons has been meeting with me regularly. He's on the call, of course, today. And then also I attended a meeting with the Amity Public Schools, the Undersheriff, McMinnville Fire District, Amity Fire District, and the emergency manager. and things are just going very well. And what I like across the board is there is understanding that as much as we can collaborate across the board and make each school district very similar, that will assist in the emergency responders, no matter which school building they go to. And the focus has shifted on behalf of the schools have shifted their focus to simplify their design to really, they'll focus on the immediate response to the active assailant piece for public safety. So you press this button, you know exactly what is happening. And then internal communications will be the other strength of the application that are separate and solely for that school campus. And it will enhance their initial school campus communication and all their awareness. So that is going very well. The Confederated Tribes Fire Station alerting, an update on that. We are moving along with USDD and the tribe. They actually, in fact, today tested a feature that would turn off their ovens when they get a call and when certain tones go out. They have 2 different ovens and they were 50% success. So they're troubleshooting one of them. As Jason Crow says, baby steps along the way, but that is moving forward. That required us to host a new server, as I talked about, as well as bringing up a VPN to have the fire district on. Also ongoing is our IT staff, Scott, and then of course Steve are going over an interface design document, and Tim as well, with Central Square, USDD, and the Confederated Tribes. And again, that's their tickers, their individual sleeping quarters, all of that. So that is going very well as well. In the end, this is completely paid for by the tribe. YCOM is considered the customer of record with Central Square, as some of our other agencies have done, which means that we can initiate trouble tickets. And what is outstanding is the tribe has approached this project as it will benefit all fire districts. So the way they're setting up the interface and by naming us the customer of record, it makes it much easier for YCOM to bring other fire districts on without them having to purchase outright an entire new project. And we'll be able to use just the one CAD interface. So on the dispatch side of things, I can't remember the final number, but I think it's just over $50,000 that the tribe has provided for that no other station will have to pay for. So that's a very great collaborative effort with them. Are there any questions so far?
On that deal, is that going to be in perpetuity? Is that going to be like, is that going to be like a sunset date on, so that's going to be?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
So they did the same thing when we brought in Pulse Point for Yamhill County, and they used some of their COVID dollars to initially purchase that. And then YCOM does pay the ongoing costs for maintenance for subscription for Pulse Point. In this case, the tribe is gifting to add on other people as long as we could set it up in such a way. It won't be a zero cost to other fire districts, but they will not have any interfacing costs, as well as I won't have any. So, yes. Integrated text to 911, we had a kickoff meeting with YCOM, Oregon Department of Emergency Management, Intrado, Lumen, and Motorola. They've done all of their, a great deal of behind the scenes work. Again, with YCOM being the pilot, really their focus is on the network itself. It's the Intrado, Lumen, Motorola. They've integrated text to 911 in other places in the nation, but they have not into the console premise equipment in Oregon, which just means they have a lot of network engineering to do. So we do expect to have a great deal of testing. I was very surprised when they brought us up to speed and said, next up is admin training in YCOM, configuration of our workstations, call handling features, and then staff training, and the words, we're still on track for a go live prior to the end of 2024. So that was the first anybody had said anything about timeline. So I think that November, end of November and December are going to be very busy months. And if you'll recall, once they turn that on, so if I pick up my cell phone right now and I text 911, Verizon kicks back a message to me and says it's not available in my area, place a voice call to 911. Whenever it gets turned on, that call will go through, whether or not we're testing or not. Live is live is live. So we want to make sure that while we're excited about the fast pace, that we are ready with our catcher's mitt to receive that information and then know what we're going to do with it, policy, procedures, and training on our end. One of the things that will be a big difference for my staff is that when a texting session comes in, it presents itself as if it's a telephone call. And then whoever answers it, that workstation, I'm the call owner, and no one else in the room can listen in, can see that, can do anything with it. So some of the determinations we're going to have to make is how long am I the owner of that session, so that I don't get up and run down the hall to the restroom and another one comes in and no one can take care of that. One of the other things that we utilize in training all the time is we can listen in to a trainee's call or we can join it. So we join the call and now we're all conferenced in. You cannot do that with a texting session. So literally at that point in time, it will be the trainer looking over the trainee's shoulder. If something were to go awry, the trainee has the ability to quote unquote transfer it to a different console, but those are all procedures that we need to make sure we have ready. So hopefully when we next meet in January, we're either live or we're getting ready to go live with it, which is pretty exciting. Are there any questions with text 911? Okay, on the GIS data development and maintenance reimbursement, when we last met, I told you that reimbursements had resumed and that we had submitted over $34,000 worth of GIS reimbursements to OEM. That did come in. I misquoted. I said $34,048.59. It was $34,148.59. We have received that in. If you'll remember, I budget just over $43,000 for OEM reimbursements annually. We do have one additional request is with them right now, and that's for Q3, and that's for $8,569. And we would expect to put in 3 more this year. So we will have additional revenue in that line. The balance is going to be, we are now eligible for up to $13,500 per quarter, but because it directly correlates back to the employee's wages and it's a direct reimbursement again instead of a disbursement, what I'll end up needing to do by the time that we're in the budgeting process, I should have the numbers for 6 quarters, and I'm going to take an average of that. And I think that that would be a more conservative approach. Because we will not be collecting over 50,000 just by the time that we have Tim dedicated to other IT functions at YCOM. Are there any questions with that? Okay, and on the operations side of things, Angela Eichler finished her training program and became a solo dispatcher as of November 4th. And Madison Varel will be solo this Thursday. They both started the last week of March, and this is the second time that we have trained 2 staff in just over 7 months. So I do believe that all of the changes that Steve made to our training program, to our documentation, and to the critical thinking elements instead of memorization of our training program have really paid off for us. All of our trainers have done an exceptional job with them. And now Steve has recognized that with these improvements, if we are going to continue no longer having someone in training over a year, we now have created a scenario where we have, with training timelines lessening, we could have newly solo dispatchers working alongside very less tenured staff. So as they're both signed off this month, even though they can function as one of two, he has set their schedules so that they will have additional support available in the center throughout the month of November. But come December 1, as they are folded into the mix of scheduling in two different cases on different days, not every day of the week, they will be working with someone who have under 2 years of tenure at YCOM. So knowing this, Steve has begun what he calls just-in-time training opportunities in the center. And it is literally him calling or him coming in or him walking up to a console and making the rounds with all of our staff, introducing a scenario that is going to require their knowledge of disaster recovery processes. This is a time when I would initiate a call to IT. I need to contact a supervisor. For instance, CAD is down. Well, I would go to my backup CAD and that is down. And I would go to reducing all the way down to, I would get out a piece of paper. I would notify what would I do for, and what services. The conversations all generate along this line of thinking of what do you have available to you and what can you do with that? And who can you contact and what are the resources that you have? All of his scenarios are involving lesser used procedures and critical thinking, because we do have some angst in our staff of, wow, I feel comfortable and confident with the job that I have being here 18 months, but I didn't know I would be quote unquote the boss. And so we're reminding our staff that they work collaboratively and they work cooperatively with each other. And they're all fully trained to handle whatever comes their way. They don't need me in the room or Steve in the room. It's a comfort to them, because if Steve were there right now, he is over there, they could yell, Steve, my CAD's down. Scott, X isn't working. So I understand the angst. And in essence, we train our dispatchers from day one that your job is to tread water until you have reinforcements, which is the core of public safety. And it happens everywhere with public safety, until you have another set of hands or another officer or your backup gets here. We tread water and we do the best that we have, and we prioritize every task that we do. We can't do every task, but there are tasks that you can do until reinforcements get there. So are there any questions on that? In other operations news, we do have our training manual under review for new technologies, just for updates. So as he is able now to pull back from the console a bit, he is really focusing on reformatting the law enforcement section to incorporate all of these training. I just lost my train of thought. All of the methods that we are now using. So our training manual, the last section of it that needs updated is law enforcement. And we have several pages of, if it's domestic disturbance, ask this, then do this, then do this, then do this. And it's that muscle memory requiring, I need to learn steps 1 through 8. And we want to transition this over to, what do you do? Well, a domestic is an in-progress call. On in-progress calls, I know that I get X, Y, and Z information, and then I do A, B, and C. And so he's cleaning that up as well as he goes. And then with that, our documentation of the training completion, we want to make sure that instead of Patty has answered questions A, B, and C, that we are moving on to statements of Patty has demonstrated the ability to do this, to think on her feet, to shown the flexibility to escalate or de-escalate in a situation as appropriate. And then finally, 2 other items, I guess, on the Health and Human Services Community Outreach Support. We worked on that initiative with Active 911. We've established Active 911. YCOM is a client of them. We had a COS, so Community Outreach Support trial group of employees that were getting paged silently through CAD as a pilot. Both Steve and Scott have participated with Health and Human Services with their staff trainings and answered questions. YCOM's the customer of record, and COS admin will be able to update their subscribers on the Active 911 side. So this is, again, one of those areas that we will be using the hosted technology lines of our budget as well as the hosted technology revenue lines. So when all is said and done, if they have 20 subscribers, then I will be invoiced by Active 911 for the individual subscribers, and I will re-invoice Health and Human Services for the final subscriptions that they have. That's went very well and very quickly. And then finally, I just wanted to let you know on the continuing training front, actually, I guess I have two other items. You just looked at Adam. I have the other papers, but on the continuing training front, I attended the Bureau of Labor and Industries conference last Thursday and Friday and received continuing training for myself and our organization. And this is just a small snapshot. My head was swimming at the end of the day, and I used 3 different pens full of ink: wage and hour pitfalls, hiring practices, telework, interviews, navigating paid leave, new employee protections, speech and religious accommodation and expression, Workers Fairness Act, AI in the workplace, and all the legal and law updates. So I wanted to let you know that those are also on. As having been an attendee, they'll make presentations available to me, and I'll use those for continuing training also with Steve and Darcy. So sometimes they tell us it's limited to only the paying attendee, but in this case, I'll be able to utilize those presentations so that we can have internal conversations too. I learned along the way that I have a couple policies that need to be updated, confirmed what we have done with our employee. We have an employee on family leave as far as paid leave Oregon, and got a couple questions answered. So it was well worth the training, and I'll make sure that we'll continue that on with Steve and Darcy as well. Are there any questions so far? Okay, and then finally in your packet, you had several different documents, and I wanted to brief the board and make sure that you know that I sent a letter to President Adam Garvin, who is also, of course, one of our board members, with the McMinnville Fire District Board of Directors. They had a presentation, so they have a consulting firm who is doing some work on behalf of the district. And they had a presentation at their October 24th board meeting. And I watched that presentation, and the letter that I sent was in regard to several statements that were made by the consulting firm, and they're listed out here in the letter. And I wanted to ensure that the board understands the capabilities that YCOM does have today, and to open any kind of dialogue that they might have for us as far as our emergency medical dispatch system, as far as the data capabilities that we have, and as far as the presentations that I do to you each time you meet, as well as through our budget message, that we do have a robust quality assurance program, and we do monitor and train, as well as follow up to the performance of individuals as well as the organization as a whole. As you review these, I appreciate that Emily sent them out with the board packet. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer any of those. You are fortunate to have Adam here today, of course, wearing 2 different hats. And if the board has any questions for me, I'm glad to answer those today. I will let you know that Adam and I had a couple follow-up conversations, and I provided some additional information to him and have answered some questions. And I just want you to know that service level and delivery and technologies that we can provide are and remain important to us, and that I'm here to have dialogue with the district as they navigate their strategic plan moving forward.
Any questions from any of the board, Commissioner?
Yeah, I guess I'm curious, what was AP Triton trying to sell? What were they trying to sell?
They're not trying to sell anything. So it's a strategic plan of like looking at everything we currently have available and what we need moving forward.
Oh, okay.
5 years.
Future planning?
They only were able to work off of, correcting the acronym, I'm not from Patty, but they only worked off RMS data, which isn't quite as detailed.
Okay.
Clean as CAD data. On October 24th, Patty and her team were able to provide that CAD data.
Okay.
And so the comments made during that board presentation that evening was like kind of a draft document per se. They were on site for 2 days, meeting with all the board, staff chief, union reps, and community members. They also had a community presentation one of the evening. And so, and then they met with partners, I believe, the sheriff, Patty, some other fire chiefs from around that we collaborate with and using partners.
Okay.
So they take all that site visit information and they inject that with the data they had before they showed up. And that's what's gonna be to us in the final draft. And then the board and the fire chief will have time to go through that, make sure that any edits, for apparatus numbers or any technicalities are updated.
Okay.
And then from there, they'll get it back to us and that'll be like a public document, like, forward facing, like on our website. At the end of the day, the public record has to be requested by anybody. So, yes, the comments made off of the data that they had, but now they have the key data from October 24th. I anticipate that the team draft that they send to us here next few weeks to be different from what they initially said at that presentation. And I talked to Rich today on that. He assured me that anything that got inside visit will be included in this document.
Thanks.
Sheriff, I actually had a follow-up question. So I'm still trying to catch up on things, obviously being a new board member. Was the intent for the new fire district in McMinnville to do dispatch internally? And we break away from YCOM or no? Okay, okay.
No.
I don't think so.
Oh, can you hear me now?
There you go.
All right. No, the intent wasn't to bring dispatching in-house by any measure. It was just to examine everything we have available, from apparatus to staffing to our dispatch capabilities, and then where are our shortcomings as far as if we're going to grow to X, Y, and Z, what do we need to do to get there? And so it'll be the visionary document that, we'll have heat maps of you should have your next substation out here, and then your next one should be out here. And then if you potentially merge with somebody down the road, how does that change your location of that substation, and what's best practices for staffing levels and divisions and things like that.
Oh, okay, so this was more of just rebuttal to maybe some inaccuracies that were conveyed at a public meeting. That's all that. Okay.
Correct.
I was reading this before I got here, thinking there was a bigger thing that I was walking into, so I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah, so Patty was rebuttaling comments made in a public meeting by our consultant. The consultant was making a statement off the data they had available to them. They now have more data available to them, and they will likely change that opinion, but they haven't landed on that final document, so I can't say that for certain right now. Any other question?
That's it for me.
That's it for you. Thank you for the update and all of the information. The last item under new business is an initial discussion on the 190 agreement. Obviously, if you look at the 190 that's attached, the 190 itself, there's a lot of names and positions that are no longer serving in any of those capacities because it's from 2006. And then we do have an addendum at the back, which is an agreement with the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde. So just given the initial attention to the agreement with the cities having to select a new representative, I was going through and sorry to put Adam on the spot here, but in looking at the city of McMinnville representative, that appointment or selection by the city council in McMinnville was one that would have been this past January, but obviously with your position with the council, I wanted to just bring to light that that's probably a consideration that this board needs to be looking at, as well as the fire district representative under section 6. That language under the fire district representative indicates that the representative would be selected in December of an odd numbered year to appoint a representative for a 2-year term. And so that is something that we obviously will be seeing next year in the end of the year. So I wanted to look at the agreement as a whole just because of its age and make sure that it's reflective of our current users when it comes to how it's structured. And obviously, it does have separated out the city of McMinnville and McMinnville Rural Fire Protection District already in sections, in section 2. So I just wanted to, I guess, bring the board up to speed that I plan to be looking through this document, and I would ask that all the board members do the same to look at whether or not there's other things that need to be addressed or refreshed other than just who the representatives are. Just because it says that there's a certain term or a time frame for representatives, it does have language that reappointments are authorized but not required. And so once those people are in those positions, they can continue on. And I don't know if that's anything that we want to look at moving forward, but I guess I'd be open to some thoughts or feedback with respect to just kind of a review of the 190 itself and getting it updated, making sure that all the signers are folks that are more current than 06.
So you're done at the end of December, right? Your term? Okay,
My council term's up December 31st,
okay,
but we won't swear in new councilors and the new mayor until January 14th in the evening.
okay.
So I'd anticipated this to be my last YCOM meeting, but I think I'll probably show up to the 14th meeting just to give the city a little bit of continuity.
Okay.
The mayor makes appointments of committees.
Okay.
So I do intend to meet with Mayor Morris before she's sworn in and debrief on all the committee assignments I've had and who I would pick for each of those committees if it was my choice.
Okay.
Just so she has some insight. Whether she takes those recommendations or not is her prerogative, but at least so she has some insight into where each of my personal committee assignments are.
Yeah. So, but technically you're halfway through this term.
Yeah.
So they would just be filling the remainder
Yeah.
of your term. Okay.
And for the most part, I want to say Councilor Minke was on the YCOM board for 8 years or more before I was her replacement. So
Okay.
it's pretty common that there's some pretty good continuity in council assignments. I mean, every 2 years we redo council assignments, which actually would be oscillating on what this IGA is calling for because we reassign on election cycles. And so it would never end up with how the IGA is written here.
Well, and if that's something that we should look at aligning is the city of McMinnville representative and aligning that position with the cycle that the city council
Yeah.
chooses to use, just to simplify it.
Yeah, I think that would be good. I mean, I say that as, in the 8 years I've been on council, that's when it's happened. The mayor could assign whenever she'd like, or he would like. So
Right.
Mayor Olson, Mayor Hill, Mayor Drabkin have all done that on election cycles.
Is it only one? Let's see, the sheriff, commissioner, city of McMinnville, city member, and then so one fire district member.
Correct.
My other question for that IGA would be, since '06, there has been fire districts formed, so the number of cities versus number of districts has changed since that IGA. And so does the board still want to maintain a 5-seat position, or, how do they want to navigate that? Obviously the tribes came on too. So I think that'd be something to think about after this meeting when I'm not here. And then as far as districts go, do you want electeds for that, or do you want staff, or can it be anybody? I mean, city representatives have always been city managers, I believe, or mayors. But
And I was actually going to get to that because I know when we were selecting a city representative, I think there was some discussion from the cities of Amity and Lafayette regarding this, since this is a board that does set and approve taxes and fees, that there should be an elected aspect to all the positions. Regardless if I agree or disagree, I know there was some appetite for that, and kind of going to what you're mentioning about that as well. Maybe that's something that we would at least clarify in this IGA. But I was also thinking, especially since 2006 has been a long time, maybe there's a way we look at the proportion of the fees, because I mean, this could affect somebody like Lafayette, but I mean, we've definitely grown more than most other cities. So some of those percentages per fire agencies, especially with inclusions of other fire agencies, this may be an opportunity to also look at percentage per fire agency. But
That's probably another point for clarification moving forward, because the funding formula that's in addendum A is not the funding formula that's currently used.
Okay.
So, cleaning up some of the language that's in here that is not, there's reference to the city of Dayton being an associate member,
yeah,
but
and they've been in there
they're a
regularly.
full member
Yeah.
now. So maybe it would be simpler if we kind of divide up, if you're willing, and I know that obviously on your way out, but if you would have that prep conversation with the mayor and the council, or just make them aware that the board will be looking for a city of McMinnville representative from McMinnville to fill your vacancy when it is appropriate for them to do so. Our next meeting isn't until January
14th,
anyway.
yeah.
Is that the same day as when they would get sworn in?
yeah,
Yeah. So we may have to,
the next meeting you would have a new McMinnville rep would be your March meeting.
March meeting.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Brandon, if you want to take a look at the language for the city representative and bring back any ideas for maybe how that should be cleaned up, and bring some of the perspective that obviously you're
Okay.
just mentioning to Adam
Okay.
about elected versus just a city representative, which could end up being a volunteer position of a counselor or a mayor. And then I will follow up on the fire district representative. The other two are pretty self-explanatory because it just spells out the sheriff and the,
I think it's interesting though that McMinnville is now merged, right? So you're now the largest fire district.
Yeah, that was one of my things I mentioned to Patty months ago was, when I look at how this was made in '06, it was kind of who's paying the most, each got a seat.
Yeah.
And so now if you look at our user dues and what McMinnville Fire District is going to pay compared to all the other fire districts combined, I don't, want to be the elephant in the room, but if you look dollars to dollars, we definitely pay more than just another special district on that this YCOM agency serves. So I would like to find a way that there is representation for the McMinnville Fire District on this.
Well, that's what I'm thinking is it might be not just the city, but the fire district, and then, not disenfranchise our smaller fire districts, so potentially one more, I don't know,
That was my thing, is you don't really want to even number though.
right?
I think that some of those discussions about the structure
Mhm.
and seats at the table is probably going to be longer term than we have to have at least enough people on the board to be able to take action to
Mhm.
follow through with those recommendations. If we're looking at changing the structure of the board and how it's made up, we still are going to need, under the existing agreement, a representative from the city of McMinnville in order to move those initiatives forward. So
Yeah, I'm thinking phase 1, phase 2.
because those are going to be obviously some longer discussions about
Yeah.
makeup of the board and representation, taking into consideration some of the changes that have happened, not just McMinnville, but since '06 in general.
Yeah, I mean, you think of back then you had some city departments that are now in the sheriff's office. And so
Mhm.
how's that look too, you know?
And then I was asked to remind the board that depending on if there's new language added or what the scope of this process would be, just to remind the board that this is a negotiations for a successor contract year. So while these changes are opened and being reviewed, we will be bargaining with our employee union as well.
Thank you. Any other discussion on beginning the journey of updating the 190 agreement?
No, Chef, I did have one question. I'm assuming we share counsel with the Board of Commissioners and the county, correct?
We
So
do
this will
not.
eventually go through? No? Okay,
We do not.
okay.
So YCOM used to use an attorney with local government law group. Her name was Christy Monson, and I say was because she's no longer there. We also use their labor attorney, Diana Moffett. She's been YCOM's attorney for years and years. Knowing that Christy was gone and that this was on the agenda, I contacted Diana and said, so what would the law group do if you asked me to reach out to them? And she said, I could just email her and let her know that we've utilized Christy before, because she would put that to the partners and remind them that YCOM was a client of Christy and ask the partners who would they like to select to represent us. So that would be her recommendation. And she was the one who asked me to remind you that we are would be negotiating this year, which there would be a small amount of items that could be affected, but she wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. So it would be a new relationship with a brand new attorney.
The thing I would add to that is local government law group does represent a number of our users.
That would be that might be an issue.
So you'd be up against a lot of conflict of interest unless everybody recuses themselves.
And the last time that we were in need of an attorney, Sheriff Tim Swenson, his approach was he had a conversation with county council and said, the Yamhill County will be a party to this agreement as a party to the 190. So will you look at this language for me and advise me on whether or not the county would want to enter into? And he was able to do that,
Okay.
but they've been very clear at delineating that they would be in conflict to represent YCOM.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, anything else?
So with the 190, is this something that you want to do a little bit more debrief in January, or it's something that,
I mean, I'm game for starting discussions whenever, just because it's going to take time. And obviously, when we're talking about kind of that phased approach, we obviously need to have the ability to continue to conduct business and have enough members to move things forward. But it's never too early to start looking at phase 2. And
Yeah.
I'm happy to have a conversation with whoever to ensure that we're capturing all the information that we should be considering before we make final determinations.
sounds good?
Well, given your announcement that this is probably your last meeting, I would like to just say thank you for all of your time serving on the executive board as a representative and helping us to navigate the various issues that come up and some of the spirited conversations about dues and keeping the organization going, keeping YCOM going. So very much appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing what you guys do and hopefully bringing on a new radio system.
I'm working on that too. So our next meeting right now is scheduled for January 14th. And if you have any agenda items that come up between now and then, please send them to Emily so that we can get them added. David Vandewally is unavailable today. He was on his vacation that he let us know about. So I'm sure we'll be seeing him again in January.
Sheriff, just as an aside, is everyone aware of the Carlton Bridge issue?
I don't know if everyone is aware of it.
Okay.
I don't think we've passed anything along to the center.
Okay. I don't know if that impacts fire trucks, but
Absolutely.
it impacts farm equipment, so
Oh,
we might want to update Patty.
I've got I'll send you something when I get back to the office. I got a notification from the Public Works Road Supervisor that the bridge over Hahn Creek, just on the east of Carlton on Hendricks, they're doing some emergency work on it, and it's going to be weight reduced and lane limited.
Hmm.
I didn't
coming
even
up
know
here.
there was a bridge there. I was trying to picture it. Can you
It's
picture it?
right by the little sewage pump station on East Main Street.
Yeah.
right by Carlton Crest.
Yes.
Yeah, right there at the beginning.
And-
But it's down to one lane right now.
Oh, wow.
So I think they had some farm equipment get stuck there and have to turn around. So I just want to make sure.
Yeah, no, that's
Everybody's
a very
aware.
good point.
Yeah, if you could forward that on, be great.
Gave the traffic jam thing.
But certainly with that being the only route east out of Carlton for a water tender, unless you go the long way,
Mhm.
we'll want to get that programmed in. So I'll see what I can find when I get back.
Okay.
How long is that expected?
We, I think, can get the equipment, the repair equipment within a week. And then we're going to see if we can do it in-house quickly. So trying not to close the bridge because that would be a disaster, but they've had to reduce it to one lane. So
Salt Creek Bridge, 2 years.
Hey, Sheriff, if I may, one
Yes,
more
sir.
thing. I know we have January's meeting, but I wanted to make sure if possible by March's meeting. I know some of my concerns when I was on the budget committee about the big impact that several cities had faced with the budget increase. Just want to make sure, especially as some who's going to be preparing the budget in February and March, if maybe in March, if we can maybe just have some type of general update on where things are going. So there's no sticker shock on the end of the budget season.
Absolutely.
That would be great.
remind me, you guys do budgets is it
We-
earlier than us?
Yeah, we pretty much have our second or third budget committee meeting at the end of April. So I'm pretty much putting the budget together like end of February, early March.
Okay.
So,
And we can certainly work to have some heads up,
Yeah.
but
yeah, I'm just looking for like, hey,
Yeah,
we're looking
tough.
at
Yeah.
this type of increase this year. Cause I mean, especially with negotiations, if we're all planning for 3 or 4% and it goes up to another 8 or 9%, I just want to make sure that we can kind of communicate that effectively and whatnot. So,
all right.
thank you.
Anything else? Okay. I will call us adjourned. It is 3:55, according to not the clock on the wall.
Thanks.
Thank you.